Welcome to my channel Bookish English 2. Do you understand English, but still feel nervous when you try to speak, like your words stop at the last moment? You are not alone, and the good news is, confidence is not something you are born with. It is something you can build step by step. In this video, I will show you simple and practical ways to speak English with confidence, even if you are a beginner. So stay till the end, because one small change can make a big difference. Chapter 1. Why confidence feels so hard. There is a moment that almost every English learner knows very well, even if they never talk about it openly. You are sitting with people, maybe friends, maybe strangers, maybe even in a simple situation like a shop or a classroom, and you understand a few words. You have ideas in your mind. You want to say something, but suddenly your body becomes quiet. Your mind starts racing, your heart beats faster, and instead of speaking, you stay silent. You tell yourself, maybe later, maybe I am not ready, maybe I will say it wrong. And just like that, another chance passes. If this has happened to you, then you need to hear this very clearly. You are not weak, you are not slow, and you are definitely not alone. The truth is, confidence in English feels hard not because English is too difficult, but because your brain is trying to protect you. When you try to speak a new language, your brain sees it as a risk. It thinks, what if people laugh? What if you make a mistake? What if you feel embarrassed? And because of this, your brain chooses silence as a safe option. This is not a language problem, this is a human problem. Even people who are confident today once felt the same fear. They also had moments where they wanted to speak but stayed quiet, where they knew the words but could not say them. So if you feel this fear right now, it does not mean you cannot learn. It simply means you are at the beginning of your journey. Another reason confidence feels so hard is overthinking. You do not just think about what to say, you think about how to say it perfectly. You start building a sentence in your mind, then you stop, then you change a word, then you worry about grammar, then you check if the tense is correct, and by the time you are ready, the moment is already gone. This is something many beginners do, and it feels like you are trying to solve a big puzzle before speaking even one word. But here is the hidden problem. When you think too much, you stop your natural flow. Speaking is not meant to be perfect, it is meant to be alive, simple, and real. When you try to control every word, you lose the courage to say anything at all. And then there is the habit of translating. This is one of the biggest reasons why confidence feels heavy and slow. You hear something in English, but instead of understanding it directly, your brain translates it into your first language. Then, when you want to speak, you create the sentence in your first language, and only after that you try to change it into English. This process takes time and it creates pressure. While you are translating, the conversation moves forward, and you feel left behind. You start thinking, I am too slow, I cannot speak fast, others are better than me. But the problem is not your ability, the problem is the method. Translation makes everything feel harder than it really is. Let me show you a simple real-life situation. Imagine you are at a small shop, and you want to ask for something very simple, like water or a notebook. You know the words, you have learned them before. But when it is your turn to speak, your mind suddenly becomes full of questions. Should I say it like this? Is this correct? What if I say it wrong? And then, instead of speaking, you point with your hand or you say nothing at all. After that moment, you feel disappointed in yourself. You think, why didn't I just speak? I knew this. This feeling hurts, and it slowly reduces your confidence even more. But what you do not realize is that this happens to thousands of learners every single day. It is not your personal failure, it is a common stage in learning. Now here is the most important thing you need to understand. Fear in speaking English is normal. It is not a sign that you are bad at English, it is a sign that you are stepping outside your comfort zone. Every new skill feels uncomfortable at first. When a child starts walking, they fall many times, but they do not stop. They do not think, I am not good at walking. They simply try again, again, and again. In the same way, speaking English is a process, not a test. You are not here to be perfect, you are here to grow. Also, confidence does not come before speaking. This is something many learners misunderstand. They think, first I will become confident, then I will speak. But confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you build by speaking, even when you feel nervous. Every small sentence you speak, every small attempt you make, slowly tells your brain, this is safe, I can do this. And little by little, your fear becomes smaller, and your voice becomes stronger. So if you feel scared right now, if you feel like your English is stuck inside you, take a deep breath and listen carefully. This feeling is not the end of your journey, it is the beginning. You are not behind, you are just starting. And in the next chapters, you are going to discover something powerful, something simple, and something real. Because if everyone feels this fear, then the real question is this: what is the one thing that can finally break it and help you speak freely? Chapter 2. Confidence is not magic, it is practice. Many people believe that confidence is something special, something that only a few lucky people have. They look at someone speaking English clearly and smoothly, and they think, wow, this person is naturally confident. I can never be like that. This thought feels real, and it feels heavy, because it makes confidence look like a gift that you either have or you don't. But here is the truth that can change everything for you. Confidence is not magic. It is not a hidden power that only some people receive. Confidence is built, slowly and quietly, through small daily actions that anyone can take, including you. Think about it for a moment. When you see a confident speaker, you are only seeing the result, not the journey. You are seeing the final version, not the beginning. You do not see the days when they were afraid to speak, the moments when they made mistakes, the times when they felt embarrassed or unsure. You do not see the small sentences they practiced alone, or the quiet effort they put in every single day. Because of this, your mind creates a story that is not true. It tells you that they are different, that they are special, that they have something you do not. But in reality, they started exactly where you are right now, with fear, with doubt, and with very simple words. Confidence grows in a very simple way, but most people ignore this simplicity because it does not look exciting. It does not happen in one day, and it does not feel powerful in the beginning. It starts with something very small. Maybe you say one sentence today, even if it is not perfect. Maybe you describe what you are doing while sitting in your room. Maybe you look in the mirror and speak a few words about your day. These actions may feel too simple, almost like they are not enough, but this is where the real change begins. Every time you take one small step, your brain learns something important. It learns that speaking is possible. It learns that making mistakes is not dangerous. It learns that you can survive the moment you were once afraid of. Let's take a simple example that has nothing to do with English. Imagine learning how to ride a bicycle. The first time you try, you feel scared. Your body is not balanced, your hands are not steady, and your mind is full of worry. You may fall, you may stop, and you may even feel like giving up. But if you keep practicing, even for a few minutes every day, something starts to change. Your balance improves, your fear becomes smaller, and slowly, you begin to ride without thinking too much. Now imagine if someone told you, you need to be confident first, then you can ride the bicycle. That would not make sense. You become confident because you practice, not before you practice. The same is true for speaking English. The problem is that many learners are waiting for a feeling that will never come on its own. They sit and wait for confidence to appear, like a light turning on in their mind. But confidence does not arrive like that. It grows quietly, in the background, through action. Even when you feel nervous, even when your voice is not strong, every small effort is building something inside you. It is like planting a seed. At first, you see nothing. It feels like nothing is happening. But under the surface, something is growing. And one day, You look back and realize that you are speaking more easily, more naturally, and with less fear. Another important thing you need to understand is that you do not need big actions to build confidence. In fact, big actions can sometimes make you feel more pressure. When you tell yourself, I will speak perfectly today, or I will speak like a fluent speaker, your mind becomes tense. You feel the weight of expectation, and that makes it harder to speak. But when you focus on small actions, everything becomes lighter. You tell yourself, today I will say 3 simple sentences, and suddenly, it feels possible. It feels doable. And when you complete that small goal, your brain rewards you with a feeling of success. That small success becomes the fuel for your next step. This is how real confidence is built. Not in big moments, but in small, repeated actions. Not in perfection, but in progress. Every time you speak, even a little, you are changing your identity. You are moving from someone who is afraid to speak to someone who is learning to speak. And this change does not happen in one day, but it does happen if you continue. So instead of asking yourself, why am I not confident yet? Try asking a different question. Ask yourself, what small step can I take today? This question is powerful because it gives you control. It moves your focus from fear to action. It reminds you that you do not need to wait, you just need to start. Maybe your step today is speaking one sentence out loud. Maybe it is describing what you see around you. Maybe it is repeating a simple phrase again and again until it feels natural. Whatever it does not need to be perfect, it just needs to happen. And here is something beautiful about this process. The more you take small steps, the less you think about confidence. You stop chasing it, and you start building it without even noticing. One day, you will speak, and you will not feel the same fear you felt before. You will realize that something has changed inside you, not because of magic, not because you suddenly became special, but because you showed up every day and did the small work. So now, as you continue this journey, hold on to this simple truth. Confidence is not something you are missing. It is something you are building, step by step, sentence by sentence, day by day. And the most important question for you right now is not about the future, not about perfection, not about being fluent. The most important question is this: what is the smallest step you can start today? Chapter 3: Speak before you feel ready. There is a quiet trap that many English learners fall into, and it feels very logical at first, so no one questions it. You tell yourself, I will speak when I am ready. I will speak when my grammar is better. I will speak when I know more words. This sounds smart, it sounds careful, and it feels safe. But slowly, without realizing it, this idea becomes the very thing that keeps you stuck. Days pass, then weeks pass, and you are still waiting for that perfect moment when everything feels right. The problem is, that moment almost never comes. Because readiness is not something that appears before action, it is something that grows because of action. Think about how you learned anything new in your life. You did not start perfectly. When you first tried to write, your letters were not clean. When you first tried to speak as a child, your words were broken and unclear. But you still spoke. You did not wait for perfect sentences. You did not wait for confidence. You simply tried, again and again, and slowly your ability improved. Speaking English works in the same way, even if it does not feel like it right now. The reason it feels different is because now you are more aware. You notice your mistakes, you judge yourself, and you compare yourself to others. This awareness creates pressure, and that pressure makes you believe that you must be ready before you speak. But here is the truth that can change your journey. If you wait until you feel ready, you may wait forever. Because readiness is not a starting point, it is a result. It comes after you speak, not before. Every time you open your mouth and say even a simple sentence, you move one step closer to that feeling of readiness. And every time you stay silent, you stay in the same place. It is not about being perfect, it is about being active. Many learners also believe that they need long sentences or complex grammar to start speaking. They think, if I cannot say it perfectly, I should not say it at all. But this idea creates a heavy burden. It makes speaking feel like a test instead of a simple human action. In reality, simple sentences are more than enough to begin. You do not need to explain everything in one sentence. You do not need to sound like a native speaker. You just need to express something, even if it is small. You can say, I am tired today. You can say, I like this. You can say, I am learning English. These sentences are not complicated, but they are powerful, because they are real. They are alive. They are yours. Let me share a simple story that many learners can relate to. There was a student who always listened carefully in class. He understood many words, and he could even write decent sentences. But when it was time to speak, he stayed quiet. He was always waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect sentence, the perfect confidence. One day, his teacher asked him a very simple question. It was not difficult. He knew the answer, but still he hesitated. He looked down, he thought too much, and he almost said nothing. Then something changed inside him. Instead of waiting for the perfect sentence, he decided to just say something simple. He spoke slowly, and his sentence was not perfect. There were mistakes, and his voice was not strong. But he spoke, and in that moment something important happened. Nothing bad happened. No one laughed. The world did not stop. In fact, his teacher smiled and encouraged him. That small moment became a turning point. The next time he spoke again, still simple, still not perfect, but a little easier. Then again, and again. Over time, his sentences became better, his voice became stronger, and his fear became smaller. He did not wait for readiness. He created it through action. And this is something you can do too, starting today. It is important to understand that mistakes are not your enemy. They are part of your progress. When you speak with mistakes, you are not failing, you are learning. Every mistake shows you something new. It helps your brain adjust, improve, and grow. But if you never speak, you never give yourself the chance to learn in this way. You stay in a safe space, but you also stay in the same place. Growth requires movement, and movement requires action. Sometimes the biggest change happens when you change just one decision. Instead of asking yourself, am I ready to speak? Ask yourself, can I say one simple sentence right now? This small shift removes the pressure. It makes speaking feel possible, not difficult. And when something feels possible, you are more likely to do it. The goal is not to impress anyone. The goal is to express yourself, even in the simplest way. Also remember this: confidence does not come from thinking, it comes from doing. You can think about speaking for hours, you can plan your sentences, you can imagine conversations, but none of that will give you the same growth as actually speaking. Action changes you in a way that thinking never can. It builds real experience, and that experience builds real confidence. So if you are still waiting, if you are still telling yourself that you need more time, more knowledge, or more confidence, take a moment and ask yourself honestly, how long have you been waiting, and what has changed during that time? The answer may surprise you. Waiting often feels safe, but it does not move you forward. Now imagine something different. Imagine that today you decide to speak, even if it is just one sentence. Imagine that you allow yourself to be imperfect, to be simple, to be real. That one small action can start a chain reaction. It can break the pattern of silence and replace it with action. And once you start, it becomes easier to continue. As you move forward, keep this question in your mind, not as pressure, but as a gentle push, because the answer to this question can change your journey completely. What happens if you speak today, even with mistakes? Chapter 4. Use simple sentences with power. There is a belief that quietly controls many English learners, and it often hides behind good intentions. You may think that to sound confident, you need to speak long sentences. use advanced words, and show perfect grammar. You may believe that simple English sounds weak, or that people will not take you seriously if your sentences are too basic. Because of this belief, you put pressure on yourself to say more than you can handle, and instead of speaking clearly, you end up feeling stuck, confused, and silent. But here is a truth that can change the way you see speaking forever. Confidence does not come from complex sentences. It comes from clear, simple communication that you can actually use. When you use simple sentences, something very powerful happens inside you. Your mind becomes calm. You are no longer trying to build a perfect structure in your head. You are not searching for difficult words or worrying about making a mistake in every part of the sentence. Instead, you focus on one clear idea and you express it in the easiest way possible. This simplicity removes pressure, and when pressure goes down, your confidence naturally goes up. You begin to feel more in control, more relaxed, and more willing to speak again. This is how real progress begins, not with big sentences, but with simple ones that you can say without fear. Think about your daily life for a moment. Most of the things you want to say are not complicated. You want to talk about how you feel, what you are doing, what you like, or what you need. These ideas can be expressed with very simple sentences. You can say, I am tired today. You can say, I am eating lunch. You can say, I like this movie. You can say, I need help. These sentences are short, but they are complete. They carry meaning. They allow you to communicate. And most importantly, they are easy to say, which means you are more likely to actually use them. Now imagine two different learners. The first learner tries to speak a long and perfect sentence. They think for a long time, they hesitate, they change words in their mind again and again, and in the end, they either say nothing or they speak with a lot of stress. The second learner chooses a different approach. They take a simple idea and express it with a short, clear sentence. They speak quickly, even if it is not perfect, and they move on. Over time, the second learner speaks more, practices more, and becomes more confident. The first learner, however, speaks less because they are always waiting for perfection. This is the difference that simple sentences can make. Another important thing to understand is that simple does not mean weak. In fact, simple can be very powerful. Many confident speakers use simple language, especially in real conversations. They do not try to impress others with difficult words. They focus on being clear and natural. When you listen to people speaking in everyday situations, you will notice that they often use short and direct sentences. They repeat ideas in different ways. They keep things easy to understand. This is what makes communication strong, not complexity, but clarity. Let's look at a real-life situation. Imagine you wake up in the morning and you start your day. Instead of staying silent, you begin to describe your actions in English. You say, I am waking up. Then you say, I am brushing my teeth. After that, I am making tea. These sentences may feel small, but they are building something important inside you. You are training your brain to connect actions with English directly. You are practicing without pressure. You are creating a habit of speaking, and this habit is more valuable than any perfect sentence you never say. As you continue this practice, you will notice something interesting. Your sentences will slowly grow, not because you forced them to grow, but because your comfort level increased. One day, instead of saying, I am eating, you may say, I am eating lunch with my family. Then later, you might say, I am eating lunch with my family because we have a holiday today. This growth feels natural, and it happens without stress. It happens because you started simple, not because you tried to be perfect from the beginning. Simple speaking also helps you stay in the moment. When you are not overthinking, you can respond faster. You can join conversations more easily. You can express your thoughts without long pauses. This creates a feeling of flow, and that flow is what many learners call confidence. It is not about having perfect grammar. It is about being able to speak without fear and without stopping too much. Now, you may still have a small doubt in your mind. You may be thinking, but if I use simple English, will people think I am not good enough? This is a common fear, but it is important to look at it differently. People understand clarity more than complexity. If you speak clearly, people will understand you, and communication will happen. That is the real goal. Over time, your English will improve, your sentences will become more detailed, but that journey starts with simplicity, not complexity. So instead of pushing yourself to speak in a way that feels heavy and difficult, give yourself permission to be simple. Allow yourself to speak in a way that feels easy and natural. Trust that these small sentences are not limiting you, they are building you. They are creating a strong foundation that will support your future growth. As you move forward, try this simple approach. Look around you and describe what you see. Talk about your day, your feelings, your actions, using easy sentences. Do it every day, even for a few minutes. You will be surprised how quickly your confidence starts to grow, not because you changed everything, but because you made speaking easier. And now, keep this question in your mind, not as doubt, but as curiosity, because the answer will shape the way you practice from today. Can simple English really make you sound confident? Chapter 5. Stop translating. Start thinking. There is a hidden habit that quietly slows down your English, and most learners do not even realize how much it affects them. You hear a sentence in English, but instead of understanding it directly, your brain quickly moves to your first language. Then, when you want to speak, the same process happens again. You first create the sentence in your own language, and only after that, you try to change it into English. This may feel normal, even helpful, especially in the beginning. But over time, this habit becomes a heavy chain that holds your fluency back. It makes speaking slow, it creates pressure, and it fills your mind with too many steps. Imagine trying to run while carrying a heavy bag. You can still move, but every step feels harder, slower, and more tiring. That is exactly what translation does to your speaking. Instead of thinking and speaking freely, your brain is busy doing extra work. It is translating, checking, correcting, and worrying at the same time. While you are doing all of this, the conversation continues, and you feel left behind. You start thinking, why am I so slow? Why can I not speak like others? But the problem is not your ability. The problem is the method your brain is using. Now imagine a different way. Imagine that when you hear the word apple, you do not think of the word in your language first. Instead, you see the image of an apple in your mind. You feel it, you recognize it instantly, and you understand it without translation. This is how language becomes natural. This is how children learn. They do not translate words. They connect words directly with meaning, with images, with feelings, and with real-life experiences. And this is exactly what you can start doing too, even as a beginner. Thinking in English does not mean you need to know thousands of words. It does not mean you need perfect grammar. It simply means you start connecting English words directly with your thoughts, without going through your first language. At first, this may feel strange, even uncomfortable. Your brain is used to translating, so it will try to go back to that habit. But with practice, something amazing begins to happen. Your thoughts become faster, your sentences come more naturally, and your confidence starts to grow. Let's take a simple example. Imagine you are sitting in your room. Instead of thinking, I am sitting in your language and then translating it, Try to think directly in English. Look at your action and say in your mind, I am sitting. Then, look around and think, this is my room, the window is open, I feel tired. These sentences are simple, but they are powerful because they are direct. There is no extra step, there is no delay. It is just thought and language moving together. This small change can feel like a big shift. At first, your mind may feel slow because you are not using your usual translation system. You may feel like you know less than before, but this is only temporary. What you are doing is building a new path in your brain. You are teaching your mind to work in English, not through another language. And like any new skill, it takes a little time, but the results are worth it. Another important reason why translation slows you down is because languages are not the same. When you translate, you are trying to force English to follow the rules of your own language. But English has its own structure, its own rhythm, and its own way of expressing ideas. This creates confusion. You may feel that your sentences are not correct, or that they sound strange. But when you think directly in English, you allow the language to be what it is. You stop fighting it, and you start flowing with it. Now you might be wondering, how can I start thinking in English if I am a beginner? The answer is simple. Start small and stay consistent. You do not need to think in full conversations right away. Begin with small thoughts. Describe what you see, what you feel, and what you are doing. Use simple sentences that you already know. Repeat them in your mind. Speak them softly if you can. Over time, your brain will become more comfortable, and your thoughts will grow naturally. You can also use pictures and objects around you. When you see something, say its name in English. When you feel something, express it in English. When you do something, describe it in English. This creates a direct connection between your experience and the language. It removes the need for translation, and it builds a stronger, faster way of thinking. At this point, something very important begins to change. Your speaking becomes smoother. You do not pause as much. You do not search for words in the same way. Your sentences may still be simple, but they come out more easily, and that ease is what confidence feels like. It is not about knowing everything, it is about being able to express something without fear and without delay. There will be moments when you go back to translating. That is okay. This is part of the process. Do not feel frustrated. Just gently bring your mind back to English. The goal is not perfection, but progress. Every time you choose to think directly in English, you are strengthening this new habit. So now, as you continue your journey, remember this simple but powerful idea. You do not need to translate to understand or to speak. You can connect English directly to your thoughts, your feelings, and your life. This is how fluency begins, not in books, not in rules, but in your mind. And now, take a moment to think about this question, because the answer can change the way you learn forever. What changes when your brain stops translating? Chapter 6. Practice alone without fear. There is a quiet freedom that many English learners have not discovered yet, and it is closer than they think. You do not always need a partner, a teacher, or a perfect environment to start speaking English. In fact, one of the most powerful ways to build confidence is something you can do completely alone. No one is watching you, no one is judging you, and no one is correcting you in a harsh way. It is just you, your voice, and your willingness to try. And when you understand this, something inside you relaxes, because the fear that usually stops you begins to fade. Many learners feel nervous when they think about speaking in front of others. They imagine people listening carefully, noticing every mistake, and silently judging them. This fear creates pressure, and that pressure makes it harder to speak. But when you practice alone, that pressure disappears. You are free to make mistakes. You are free to repeat the same sentence many times. You are free to stop, think, and try again. This freedom is not small. It is the space where real learning begins. Talking to yourself may sound strange at first, but it is actually one of the most natural ways to practice a language. Think about it. You already talk to yourself in your mind every day. You think about your plans, your feelings, and your actions. Now you are simply changing the language of those thoughts. Instead of thinking in your first language, you begin to express those same ideas in English. You can start with very simple sentences. When you wake up, you can say, I am waking up now. When you feel hungry, you can say, I want to eat. When you are tired, you can say, I need rest. These sentences may seem small, but they are building something important. They are creating a habit of using English in your real life. Another powerful method is the mirror practice. This is where you stand in front of a mirror and speak as if you are talking to another person. At first, it may feel a little uncomfortable. You may laugh, you may feel shy, and you may not know what to say. But if you stay with it, something interesting happens. You begin to see yourself as a speaker. You begin to connect your voice with your identity. You are no longer just thinking about English, you are experiencing it. You can look at yourself and say, hello, how are you? Then you can answer, I am fine. You can talk about your day, your plans, or your feelings. It does not need to be perfect. It just needs to be real. Describing your actions is another simple and effective way to practice. As you move through your day, you can talk about what you are doing. When you are cooking, you can say, I am cutting vegetables. When you are walking, you can say, I am going outside. When you are studying, you can say, I am reading a book. These small moments turn your daily life into a classroom. You are not waiting for a special time to practice. You are practicing as you live. And because these actions are real, your learning becomes more meaningful and easier to remember. One of the biggest advantages of practicing alone is that there is no judgment. No one is telling you that you are wrong. No one is interrupting you. No one is making you feel embarrassed. This creates a safe space where you can explore the language at your own pace. You can try new words, you can make mistakes, and you can learn from them without fear. This safety is very important, because confidence grows best in an environment where you feel relaxed and accepted. Over time, this practice begins to change how you feel about speaking. What once felt scary starts to feel normal. Your voice becomes more familiar. Your sentences come more easily. You do not think as much before speaking, because you have already practiced many times on your own. When you finally speak in front of others, it does not feel like something new. It feels like something you have already done many times before. It is also important to understand that consistency is more powerful than intensity. You do not need to practice for hours every day. Even a few minutes of focused speaking can make a big difference. The key is to do it regularly. When you practice every day, your brain starts to expect it. It becomes part of your routine, like eating or sleeping. And when something becomes a habit, it becomes easier to continue. At first, you may feel that your progress is slow. You may think, I am still using simple sentences. I am still making mistakes. But do not let this stop you. Growth is not always visible in the beginning. Just like a plant grows slowly before you see it, your confidence is growing inside you. Every sentence you speak, every moment you practice, is building something strong and lasting. There is also something very personal about practicing alone. You are not copying someone else. You are not trying to be perfect for others. You are discovering your own voice in English. You are learning how to express your own thoughts, your own feelings, and your own ideas. This makes your learning more authentic, and it helps you connect with the language in a deeper way. So instead of waiting for the right person, the right time, or the right situation, you can start now, right where you are. You can speak in your room, in front of a mirror, or even quietly to yourself. You do not need permission. You do not need perfection. You just need the willingness to begin. And as you continue, keep this question in your mind, because it may change how you see your practice forever. What if practicing alone is the fastest way to improve? Chapter 7. Mistakes are your power. There is one idea that silently controls the behavior of many English learners, and it often feels so true that no one questions it. The idea is simple but dangerous. It says that mistakes are bad, that mistakes mean you are not good enough, and that mistakes should be avoided at all costs. Because of this belief, many learners become careful, quiet, and afraid. They think before every word, they stop themselves in the middle of sentences, and sometimes they choose silence instead of speaking. It feels safe in the moment, but slowly, it stops their progress. What if the problem is not your English, but the way you see mistakes? Let's pause and look at this from a different angle. Imagine a child learning to speak their first language. Do they speak perfectly from the beginning? Of course not. They mix words, they use wrong forms, and sometimes their sentences do not make sense. But no one tells them to stop. No one says, wait until you are perfect, then speak. Instead, people smile, encourage them, and help them grow. Those mistakes are not seen as failure. They are seen as a natural and necessary part of learning. And this is exactly the same process you are going through right now, even if it feels different because you are older and more aware. When you change the way you see mistakes, everything begins to shift. Instead of thinking, I made a mistake, I am bad, you begin to think, I made a mistake, I am learning. This small change in thinking removes a huge amount of pressure. You no longer feel like every sentence is a test. You start to see speaking as a practice, not a performance. And when speaking becomes practice, you become more willing to try, to explore, and to grow. Think about any skill you have learned in your life. Maybe it was riding a bicycle, playing a game, or even using a new phone. At the beginning, you made many mistakes. You pressed the wrong buttons. You lost balance. You did things incorrectly. But those mistakes were not the end. They were the steps that helped you improve. Each mistake showed you what not to do, and slowly, you learned what to do instead. Speaking English works in the same way. Every mistake is giving you information. It is teaching your brain how the language works. Let's look at a simple real-life example. Imagine you want to say, I went to the market yesterday, but instead you say, I go to market yesterday. This sentence is not perfect, but it still carries meaning. The listener understands you. Communication happens. And now you have something valuable. You have a chance to learn. You may hear the correct form, or you may remember it later. The next time you speak, your sentence becomes a little better. Without that first mistake, this improvement would not happen. Another important thing to understand is that perfect grammar is not needed at the start. Many learners wait until they feel their grammar is strong before they begin speaking. But this creates a cycle that is hard to break. You wait to speak because your grammar is not perfect, and your grammar does not improve because you are not speaking. The truth is, grammar grows with use. When you speak, you begin to notice patterns. You begin to feel what sounds right and what does not. This feeling becomes stronger over time, and it comes from experience, not just study. Also, Think about real conversations. Even fluent speakers make small mistakes. They change sentences in the middle, they repeat words, and sometimes they use simple structures. But they keep speaking. They do not stop every time something is not perfect. They focus on communication, not perfection. And this is what makes them sound confident. Confidence is not the absence of mistakes. It is the ability to continue speaking even when mistakes happen. There is also an emotional side to this journey. When you fear mistakes, you close yourself. You become careful, and your energy becomes low. But when you accept mistakes, you open yourself. You become curious. You become active, and your energy increases. You start to enjoy the process instead of fearing it. This emotional change is very powerful because it makes learning feel lighter and more natural. Now imagine this. You speak a sentence, and it is not perfect. Instead of feeling embarrassed, you smile and continue. You think, that was not perfect, but I said it. This simple reaction changes everything. It builds your confidence. It tells your brain that speaking is safe. And the more you do this, the stronger this feeling becomes. It is also helpful to remember that people are not focusing on your mistakes as much as you think. Most of the time, people are interested in your message, not your grammar. They want to understand you, not judge you. And when you speak with honesty and effort, people often respect that. They see your courage, and that matters more than perfect sentences. So instead of trying to remove mistakes from your journey, allow them to be part of it. Let them guide you, not stop you. Let them teach you, not scare you. Every mistake you make is a step forward, not a step back. It is a sign that you are trying, that you are practicing, and that you are growing. As you continue, keep this thought close to you, especially in moments when you feel afraid to speak. Because this one idea can change the way you see your entire journey. What if your mistakes are actually helping you grow? Chapter 8. Build a daily confidence routine. There is something powerful that most successful English learners discover, but many beginners overlook because it feels too simple to be important. It is not a secret method, it is not a complex strategy, and it does not require special talent. It is the power of a daily routine. Not a perfect routine, not a long routine, but a simple, consistent habit that you follow every day. This is where real confidence begins to grow, quietly and steadily, even when you do not notice it at first. Many learners start with high energy. They feel motivated, they study for hours, and they push themselves very hard for a few days. But then something happens. They feel tired, they lose focus, and slowly they stop. This cycle repeats again and again, and it creates a feeling of frustration. You may think, why can I not stay consistent? Why do I always stop? The answer is not that you lack discipline. The answer is that you are trying to do too much at once. When something feels heavy, your mind naturally avoids it. But when something feels simple and manageable, your mind is more willing to continue. A daily confidence routine is not about doing a lot. It is about doing a little, but doing it every day. Imagine this simple plan. Every day, you spend a few minutes speaking, a few minutes listening, and a few minutes repeating. You speak simple sentences about your life. You listen to easy English, maybe a short audio or a simple video. Then you repeat what you hear, trying to copy the sound and the rhythm. This routine is not difficult, but it is powerful because it touches all parts of your learning. You are using your voice, your ears, and your memory at the same time. The beauty of this routine is that it removes pressure. You are not trying to be perfect. You are not trying to learn everything in one day. You are simply showing up, again and again, and doing your small part. And this is where the magic happens. Not in one big moment, but in many small moments that come together over time. Each day, you add a little more confidence, a little more comfort, and a little more ability. And because the steps are small, you do not feel overwhelmed. Consistency is more important than perfection. This is a simple idea, but it can change everything if you truly understand it. Many learners stop because they feel they are not doing it perfectly. They miss one day, and then they think, I failed. But missing one day does not mean you failed. It simply means you are human. What matters is that you come back the next day and continue. Progress is not about being perfect every day. It is about not giving up when things are not perfect. Let's imagine two learners again. One learner studies for 2 hours one day, then stops for a week. The other learner studies for 10 minutes every day, without stopping. After 1 week, the second learner has more practice, more experience, and more confidence. Not because they worked harder in one moment, but because they stayed consistent. This is how real improvement works. It is quiet, it is steady, and it builds over time. Another important part of a daily routine is making it part of your life, not something separate from it. You do not need to create a special time that feels difficult to manage. You can connect your practice with your daily activities. When you wake up, you can say a few sentences. When you eat, you can describe your food. When you walk, you can talk about what you see. When you listen to something, you can repeat it softly. This way, English becomes a part of your day, not something extra that feels like a burden. At first, you may feel that these small actions are not enough. You may think, can this really help me become confident? But this is where trust is important. Trust the process, even if the results are not immediate. Just like exercise strengthens your body slowly, this routine strengthens your speaking ability little by little. You may not notice a big change in one day, but after a few days, you will feel something different. Your sentences will come a little faster. Your fear will feel a little smaller. Your voice will feel a little more natural. There is also something very encouraging about following a routine. It gives you a sense of control. You are no longer waiting for motivation. You are no longer depending on your mood. You have a simple plan, and you follow it. This creates a feeling of stability, and that stability builds confidence not only in your English, but also in yourself. You begin to trust that you can do what you decide to do. Now imagine what happens when you follow this routine for 7 days. Not perfectly, but consistently. You speak every day, even if it is just a little. You listen every day, even if it is short. You repeat every day, even if it feels simple. After 7 days, you will not be the same person. You will have more experience, more comfort, and more belief in yourself. And this is just the beginning. If you continue for 2 weeks, 1 month or more, the change becomes even stronger. So instead of waiting for a perfect plan or a perfect moment, start with something small and real. Create a routine that fits your life, not one that feels impossible to follow. Keep it simple, keep it consistent, and keep moving forward. Because in the end, it is not the big actions that change your journey. It is the small actions you repeat every day. And now, as you think about your own routine, hold on to this question, because it can motivate you to begin today. What happens after 7 days of daily speaking? Chapter 9. you are already becoming a speaker. There is something very important that many learners do not notice, even when it is happening right in front of them. You have been changing, slowly, quietly, step by step. Something inside you has been growing. At the beginning, you felt fear, confusion, and hesitation. You were unsure, you were waiting, and sometimes you felt stuck. But now, if you look back honestly, you will see that you are not the same person anymore. You may still feel nervous sometimes, you may still make mistakes, but there is something new inside you. There is movement, there is courage, there is a voice that is starting to come out. And that voice is proof that you are already becoming a speaker. Take a moment and think about where you started. Maybe you could not say even one sentence without fear. Maybe you were always translating in your mind, always waiting for the perfect moment, always stopping yourself before speaking. You may remember those moments clearly, because they felt heavy and frustrating. But now, something is different. You can say simple sentences, you can describe your day, you can express small ideas, you can speak, even if it is not perfect. This change may feel small, but it is not small at all. It is the foundation of everything that is coming next. The journey you are on is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming active. It is about moving from silence to expression, from fear to action. And every small step you have taken has brought you closer to this new version of yourself. When you spoke one sentence, even with hesitation, you changed something. When you practiced alone, even for a few minutes, you built something. When you accepted your mistakes and continued, you strengthened something. These moments may not feel big when they happen, but together, they create a powerful transformation. One of the most beautiful things about this journey is how it changes your identity. At the beginning, you may have seen yourself as someone who cannot speak English. You may have believed that you are not confident, that you are not ready, or that you are not good enough. But now, that identity is slowly changing. You are no longer just a learner who is waiting. You are a learner who is doing. You are practicing, you are speaking, and you are improving. This shift in identity is very important because it changes how you see yourself and what you believe is possible. Confidence does not suddenly appear one day. It grows inside you, often without you noticing it. It grows when you repeat simple sentences. It grows when you speak even though you feel nervous. It grows when you choose action instead of waiting. And the more you act, the more this confidence becomes part of you. It becomes natural. It becomes real. You no longer need to force it, because it is already there. There may still be moments when you feel doubt. You may think, am I really improving? Or why am I not fluent yet? These thoughts are normal, but they can also hide your progress if you focus on them too much. Instead of only looking at how far you still need to go, look at how far you have come. Notice the changes, even the small ones. Notice how you understand more, how you speak more, and how you feel a little less afraid. These are signs of growth, and they deserve your attention. It is also important to remember that this journey does not need to be rushed. You do not need to become fluent in 1 week or 1 month. What matters is that you are moving forward. Every day you practice, every sentence you speak, every moment you try, you are building something strong. And this strength will stay with you, because it is built on real experience, not on shortcuts or quick results. Now imagine your future for a moment. Imagine yourself continuing this path, continuing to speak, continuing to practice, continuing to grow. Imagine how your English will feel after 1 month, after 3 months, After 6 months, it will not be perfect, but it will be stronger, clearer, and more natural. And most importantly, you will feel more confident, not because you waited for confidence, but because you built it yourself. There is also something very powerful about believing in your own progress. When you believe that you are becoming a speaker, you act differently. You speak more, you try more, and you stop holding yourself back. This belief creates a positive cycle. The more you believe, the more you act. The more you act, the more you improve. And the more you improve, the stronger your belief becomes. This is how real transformation happens. So as you stand at this point in your journey, do not see yourself as someone who is still struggling. See yourself as someone who is growing. Do not focus only on what you cannot do yet. Focus on what you can do now and build from there. You are not starting anymore. You have already started. And that is the hardest part. Keep speaking, even when it feels small. Keep practicing, even when it feels simple. Keep going, even when it feels slow. Because every step you take is bringing you closer to the speaker you want to become. And the truth is, you are already on that path. Now take this question with you, not as pressure, but as inspiration, because it can guide your next steps and keep you moving forward. If you continue like this, where will your English be in 1 month? If you felt something change inside you today, don't stop here. Start speaking right now, even if it is just one sentence. And if you want to grow your English step by step with me, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and tell me in the comments, what is the first sentence you will speak today?